Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sharpening the Saw, powered by Skills Hack. Today's session is here to equip you with the tools to navigate the PIP process with sensitivity and fairness. Hosting today's session, we have two amazing women, Ms. Nilakshi Mukherjee, Senior Director at Skills Hack. Nilakshi is leadership coach and trainer with over 24 years of experience in the field of HR and training. She has been aspiring to develop robust strategies for organizations in the areas of transformational HR, which brings value to business. Leadership mantras with situational and adaptive styles of leadership has been her areas of focus and forte. Welcome, Nilakshi. Our esteemed guest for today, she is a renowned coach, mentor, and certified status quo slayer, Navanita Bhattacharya. Welcome, Navanita. She is a justice warrior with a passport full of stamps, having tackled complex issues across continents for the past 30 years. We are talking infrastructure, education, and yes, even human resource development, all with a focus on dismantling oppressive systems. She's basically a rockstar facilitator who thrives on turning big problems into bite-sized solutions. Over the next 1 hour, Nilakshi and Navanita will guide you through the art of crafting clear and effective PIP, delivering constructive criticism that actually gets through without causing emotional meltdowns, setting achievable goals and expectations. Some quick checks. May I request everyone to put your microphones on mute? Post the discussion, we will have an open forum for questions. And once again, thank you all for joining us and look forward to some engaging discussion. Over to you guys.
Lovely introduction of Navanita. And yes, I'm the senior director at Skills Hack. And I'll keep it short and crisp. So yes, about 25 years squatting between domains of HR and L&D, and a little bit of self-entrepreneurship, etc., etc., etc. So let's not get bogged down by that. What is important and what is on the table today? And Navneeta, with your permission, we would want to have this completely like an Adda session that we used to have in our college canteens, right? Where we had opinions, where we had differences, and we had the liberty of exercising those opinions, right? And exercising those differences in a manner which was fun, which was fruitful, and which shaped us as the human beings as we are today. So that's how we want to keep this discussion, and nobody's interviewing anybody, and nobody's the speaker here. So an earnest request to the audience: please feel free to join in the conversation whenever and however you want to. You can raise your hand or just come up on the video, and we'll be happy to hear from you. We'll be throwing a few questions at you. Would love to have your participation, because it's the collective wisdom which gives any credence to anything that we talk about, really. So what are we really talking about today? We wanted to, and this started with a very interesting post that my friend Navanita had posted on LinkedIn about PIPs and where we stand with them today. And where I remember I made this comment, and this is where this idea germinated, that why don't we reach out to a larger audience and talk about PIPs? So what's always intrigued me as a head of HR, as a learning person, as a coach, as a mom, is why is an improvement plan, which is supposed to be all but a positive connotation, turn into something which we don't much look forward to, Navanita? And PIP, as the name suggests, is a performance improvement plan. All of it is positive, right? But today, whenever we have a PIP discussion, it is stress, it is humiliating, borderline. It is almost a reason for an organization to tell me you might not be good enough. How has this journey transitioned from a positive connotation of improving somebody's performance to an exit discussion today as it stands? What do you think about it?
All right. Before I respond to that, Nilakshi, two things. One is, can we request everyone in this discussion today to switch on their cameras. If you feel comfortable and all right, if bandwidths are supporting, it will make it that much more cozy and intimate. And I'm a touch and feel person. So switch on your cameras if you are comfortable. And secondly, Shagun, you called me two things. One is warrior. No, God, I'm not. And a rock star. My daughter, 12-year-old, would say, hell, mom, you can't even bloody dance. So the two things you said, and I'm not neither of those. But thank you for calling me a rock star. I love that. All right. Nilakshi, I personally detest even the connotation in the PIP. The improvement part of it. And I'll tell you why. Two reasons. One is none of us in an organization, none of us are working in a silo. More often than not, we are part of teams. And more often than not, our work is interconnected and interdependent on how others are also working and performing and showing up. So why is it that one person is hauled up for an improvement plan and not the whole team? So can it be a performance improvement plan for the whole team instead of, so that the fact that one individual is being picked up for something when their work is interdependent, interconnected, and aligned to team goals, or should be aligned to one common goal, that in itself shows that there's something problematic about the process. Right, that's number one. And your question was also, has it moved from an enabling, empowering process, or what it should be, to something as the first step in exit? Like anyone says, like, oh, we have to put you in an improvement plan. We're like, all right, this is the first step in your exit plan. Has it transitioned? I would say that generally organizations which are constructed in that traditional hierarchical power over kind of dynamics,
right,
those organizations continue with such a binary concept of performance management. Organizations who are reflexive and reflective and are looking at, are we a 21st century workplace? The fact is that we are multi-generational, right? With Gen X and then Gen Z, and then, and we are raising alphas and whatnot. So are we responsive, therefore, to all of the dynamics that shape up the 21st century? And many organizations are saying that, our values need to be reflected in every system, structure, policy, and processes that we have as an organization. And performance management is one such system within an organization. So such organizations are much more flexible, agile, and smart and sassy to say that, no, our system is terrible. It doesn't enable, doesn't empower. So we have to reimagine how we would want our workplace to look like, and what all policies and the processes governing those policies should therefore kind of look like. So that transition from traditional workplaces to more enabling, more human-centric, more people-centric, more humane, more humble, that transition is slow. That transition should happen.
Indeed. So picking up from what you were saying, right, that there still is a light at the end of the tunnel, which means that there are organizations which have that agility to kind of transition from the connotation that PIP stands with today to something more developmental, and something which really adds value to the lives of the employees. Now, here is a thought. It's not a question. Here's a thought. So what do you think? See, end of the day, organizations will be driven by bottom line, right? End of the day, organizations will be driven by performances. end of the day, organizations will always look at ways and means of optimizing or kind of nurturing the best within the system. Now, what I'm also thinking as I'm asking you this question, what is the other way that you can really nurture performances if it is not as per the standards laid out by your KPI sheet? Because end of the day, we can't completely transgress from what is normal, right? So you will have a KPI sheet, you will have measures. Yes, there are various ways of doing that, and we'll come to that a little later in the part of the conversation. But considering most of Indian organizations, I would think about 70% is still driven by the normal logistics of having a KPI, having measures around it, and there would be some people who are going to be meeting those measures, some people who are not going to be meeting those measures. What, to your mind, since you have globally worked with a lot of organizations, what to your mind could be the other parameters? What to your mind could be the other plan?
I would go back to, and this is something which I always look for in organizations, irrespective of which industry, which sector, which country, which culture, which context, is are the principles or are the values which the organization profess, which are part of their branding, which is part of their websites, which is part of their employee value propositions and everything. Are those values matching their everyday behaviors? And those everyday behaviors would be governed by their policies, would be governed by systems to track and trace and evaluate and celebrate performances, right? And you did say that we'll talk about it later, but to me, that's a key point to bring it up, is how is it, the process is so critical. How is the process set, defined, driven by who all, right? So to me, the performance management should be like, if I use alphabets, I'll go with ACE. So ACE as in, and this is just prior to this call, I was trying to collect my thoughts. So aligning. So are we in a team? Does the team mutually set expectations?
The goals. Yeah.
It's not,
sure.
it's not top down. No, much before the goals. Like as a team, what are we expecting each other? If you are my manager, what expectations do I have of you, Nilakshi, as my manager? Just like as a manager, what expectation do you have from me as a colleague, as a team player, right? So are we setting those expectations in a ways that is mutual? Or is it Nilakshi with her top-down approach saying, hey, you new recruit?
What you got to do.
So those mutually set clear expectations will then drive the team goals. And the metrics to measure the goals. And how will the goals and metrics, I mentioned values of the organization. So the organization would have a strategy, right? A business plan, right? And from that business plan, it all flows down. Each of the departments, the teams need to have their goals and, all of that. So it needs to be horizontal and vertical and, systemic. What I have seen consistently over my last 27 odd years of working in multiple countries is that when it's a top down, when managers are demonstrating really horrible, unhealthy power dynamics, using their positional power to set the expectations, the goals, and the metrics, KPIs get massively screwed up. The morale remains massively messed up. There is no psychological safety. So when it therefore comes for the annual performance appraisal, people are, ठीक है यार, 1% या 2% increment मिलेगा, or, oh, it's that time of the year. So there is the romance in working for a common purpose is no longer there. Because it becomes
that's a far cry, I would say, when you put it euphorically, that whether the romance of working together for the same purpose is there, I think that's a bit of a far cry, but I can still take kind of step back, and give me your thoughts on this. So you very rightly mentioned about the organization's goals, right? Or the organization. What is the organization getting driven by? What does your brand talk about, right? What are you communicating to people that you are known for, right? Now here there is a huge gap between, and this has been my personal experience as a person outside of the organization, also as a person within the organization. Or we do build our values, vision, mission, statements, all of that. These are great writings up on the wall. Do I really go out and ensure that I look for people who would be embodying those values, right? And how do I do that? So, and I'll get a little HR technical here because I can see a few friends from HR over here, and that might benefit them just for the ease of understanding where I'm coming from. A lot of organizations don't work consistently on their competency matrices. And why I'm talking about this is that is your only window to understand what is the kind of a talent you're going to be attracting, right? Your competency framework. And your competency framework has to be very, very well aligned to what you stand as an organization. I'm not even breaking it down to mission, vision, goals, values, all of that. I'm saying what you stand as an organization, your direct translation of that happens through the competencies you go and seek out for. A lot of times you will notice, and there's a reason why I brought the competency piece up here. A lot of times you will notice there would be managers coming and asking you that, you know what, all this is great. You know, I love to work with all of my people, but there are two people in my team who are just not cut out for this job. What do I do with that? You know, he or she doesn't possess the capability per se to be able to carry out with this job. Or even if I was consulted, I was told the hiring pressures are too high, so you get what you get. You know, don't kind of debate it, groom the person up, etc., etc. But there will still be situations now where you will go and figure out that there are people who actually do not possess a certain set of capabilities. However, when you were doing the hiring, did you really go ahead and check that the competencies I'm looking for within the workforce collectively, there would be some technical competencies, I'm not even going there, the value-based or the leadership competencies or, the behavioral competencies that I'm looking at, am I really checking? Am I really creating a process where I'm taking people who belong to the same value system? And I'll share a small story here. If everybody's in for some afternoon storytelling, and which is why it is so important as to how organizations play this out. So when I was hired at the Taj, right, that was my first job. I was 20 something, 22 something. And we all know that Taj kind of impersonates, or the Tatas, they kind of are impersonification of how to make things right in this space, right? Of how do you treat your people well, whether you pay them enough or not, but how do you treat them well? They truly impersonify that. And now I take you back to closing the loop as to how they've managed to do that in all these years. So when I was hired, during my interview, you would be very intrigued by the questions I got asked. I was not asked a single technical question, even a single technical question. I was asked, okay, Nilakshi, what do you like? Okay, so I said, okay, I like pets, I like to sing, I like blah, blah, irrelevant stuff. So they caught on to the pets bit, huh? So they're like, oh, so you like animals? I said, oh yeah, I love them. Said, all right, now let me give you a situation. And this is all happening right there. Okay, so look at the agility of the interviewer as well. And the reason I'm sharing this story is this has a huge pertinence with where we stand today in terms of performance improvement plans, because you hardly hear of it in the Tatas. Okay, and this is why you hardly hear of it. So they were like, okay, let me give you a situation. You're crossing a road. You're trying to cross a road, and you find a few puppies right next to you, and you find a child coming from the other end, right? And they're both struggling to cross the road because it's a busy road. So who will you help and how? I was totally busted. I was like, this child is on the other end of the road. There are puppies, and they made it sure that it's in plurals. There's not just one puppy. So there are puppies, and who do you help? Now, never mind what was my answer, right? That would have been a completely blotched up answer. But yeah, I mean, they would have certainly seen something through the answer because I did get hired, and there were not too many questions after that, mind you. There was that just one important question for them. So I answered however I answered, and I got through. Now, what this really and they do this across levels. Okay, they do this across levels. They don't sit with the CV when they're interviewing, especially at the hotels. I am not too sure about the rest of it, but at the hotels they don't sit with your CV. Right? It's completely on instinct, and their instincts are purely guided by the values that the organization stands for. Right? And since they've been doing it repetitively, it's become a part of their DNA. That is an example how your organization, what they stand for, what your brand talks about, versus how you behave as an employee and how you take in more who actually kind of tune in and vibe with that. That I think is an important string where you go right back where you started to say, am I starting right?
Yeah.
And when a lot of organizations come back and tell me that, but the person is not capable, it's like the person is capable in doing something. It might not be the thing you're asking him to do, but he's capable of doing something else, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to leave you guys with this thought about how much does competencies, matching the competencies, and having a part of that values getting restored when you're actually growing your organization. So it's very easy to maintain this when you're still at a nascent stage. Let's say you're a greenfield project, etc. As you keep growing, how do you, A, does this have credence? B, how do you build on it so that you don't lose your way in between?
Yep, loved it. And in fact, I'm seeing more organizations in my industry, Nilakshi, using competency-based interview processes to recruit people, but they're also going a few steps forward. They are situating that within their EVP, their employee value propositions. They're looking like we just don't want to hire people. We also want to ensure at the same time the mindset for both the organization and the candidate in upskilling, retaining, so looking at the entire, so having a systems lens and not just that narrow binary at the moment lens. The point that you raise about there would be some people, once you get them on board, who are just not meant for that. And that's all right. We are humans. We are humans. We come in, we get hired because our attitude was right for that organization. Right. So they looked for my attitude, not for my technical skills per se, but my attitude to be able to relate, to be curious, to grow, to govern, and all of that, right? And once in the role, the person may experience that they are not right for that role. Yeah. And that's where a mature leader plays a significant role in having those conversations. And that's why, coming back to the original point of performance management, which traditionally is an annual process, versus if there are regular check-ins. If Nilakshi, my manager, is regularly checking in with me, hey, how are you feeling? How are you doing? What is it that you're loving? What is making you drag your feet? So then you'll know that I'm not enjoying this particular role, but I have my eye on that team and for that role, because I feel, so how can organizations enable people with the right attitude, which aligns with their values, be able to still be retained in the organization and be in a role that truly celebrates and allows them to function to their full capability and allows them to learn the skills that is needed to, so there is that element of, it's a two-way street. Like if I'm not interested, I will not be motivated, I won't kind of give.
Absolutely.
But it goes back to the point, Nilakshi, of communication. You highlighted that earlier in the conversation, that regular check-in, is that happening? I would love to hear from folks on this conversation. If you are people leaders, or if you are in the HR teams, how often do you see these check-ins happening? How often is there a feedback culture in your organization? And what does that feedback culture look like?
Yeah, do we have any answers to that? Because that's an interesting question. And anyone?
I see Nisha, Alka, Sayantika, Shagun, Lynette, Priyam.
Hi, this is Priyam.
Hey, Priyam.
Hi. So we do have feedback sessions happening, and majority of our staff is at project. So I mean, besides the reporting manager, the client also gives feedback. So yes, we do have it. But being a French company, we do not actually believe in letting people go quickly. So they are quite conservative on that. But in my previous organization, which was American, we were supposed to put a certain percentage of people on PIP every year. So there was a
It's not
robust,
surprising. It's not surprising at all.
there was a robust process of feedback. And people used to know that I'm going on PIP, so they would get their act together. But yes, a few were there who were not aware what's happening. So they would be caught off guard. But PIP, I believe it's an opportunity to turn around things. It can be stressful if you do not accept that you are not performing. But otherwise, for people who are interested in developing or making change, they do take it up as an opportunity to turn back the things. I had experienced that within my team itself, where a person was put on PIP for 3 months. That person turned around things in 3 months, which was missing the previous 1 year. So, and that person has worked on those areas which were shared with them.
So, Priyam, that's a good point, and I had a quick question over there. What do you think turned around for this person in 3 months, which did not happen a year long before that? What is your assessment?
Yeah, the person actually, when we had a conversation, the basic issue was that the person thought this is my area and this is where I'm working. So that person was not connecting to the whole picture. And was given feedback, given targets, given small goals to overcome these, but was not able to work on, because the main concern was, this is not my area. My area is this. Why am I being pushed towards that? So when the ultimatum came, so they push come to shove, they made the change.
No, I think I relate to this because I come from an environment, Priyam, Navnita, and for all the rest of you, I come from an environment where there are 3,000 people being measured on a daily basis on their performance, right? But what would not happen? They would be measured all right, but one, they would not be given the larger picture of things, which I thought was a part of the problem in the case you were discussing, Priyam, right now. And two, they were only being measured, but they were not being handheld through the process of recovery when they were not going through it. So yes, there was a 3 monthly appraisals, and I wouldn't call it appraisal, a feedback mechanism, but that was so number driven that the person did not really, he understood that I have not met my numbers. He did not understand, what am I supposed to do to meet my numbers? How are you guiding me through the process? And does my manager understand where I stand? And is he going to be kind and empathetic to drive me through that process,
Yeah.
right? So these are the things, like you mentioned yourself, right? This person did not feel a sense of belonging to the task that he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Now, the minute it came to push come to shove, he did it. But maybe if you take a step back and say, okay, let me show you the larger picture as to why this is your job. Do you think it could have been possible that he wouldn't have come to the PIP situation?
In this particular, I agree with you, but in this particular case, the background is that this was a rehire.
Okay.
So
So
they
yeah,
had
okay.
they
Every
had
case is
baggage.
unique. And
Yeah.
yes, so every case is unique. But having
Yeah.
said so, what I've seen work in organizations beautifully is when there is a consistency and a hand holding across. So Namita,
Yeah.
I'll pose a question to you, which one of our audience from before have asked us, and I think it's a very relevant question. That what steps do we take if there is no improvement on an employee's performance after issuing an PIP? So this is a very real world HR situation. That what do you want us to do? All right, my organization has a PIP system and the person is not improving. What do we do?
Again, a great question, and it's happening all the time. To me, even the story that you shared, Priyam, to me, the underlying factor is the why, the purpose, and the what, the process. Like, why is a PIP being done? And how is it being done, right? Is it being deployed to let you evolve and thrive, to genuinely invest in you, or is it being asked, is it a way to the first step in getting rid of you? Is it a power and control tool, or is it something to help you know how you can genuinely develop? Priyam, you used a really important word there. You talked about development. See, we are all adults in the workplace. None of us like to be patronized or talked down or treated in a way that hurts our self-esteem, right? So in this particular question, everything has been done, but no change is happening, then what? I would love to ask whoever asked the question, and if they are in the room, is that, have you asked the person, what more do you think can help you become better in the work that you're tasked to do?
Unfortunately, the person is not there in the room. But
If
yeah.
none of it's like, to me, a manager needs to be a really strong and capable coach. And as a coach, you are helping them understand the what's and the hows, and when do you move to the first gear, when do you use your clutch. It's like navigating, right? You don't push them into the sea without a life jacket if you don't know how to swim, and ask them to come to the shore safely without being eaten up by a shark, right? So as a manager, you need to have that coaching ability, that you are asking the right question. You are actually allowing and enabling a person to be able to do everything possible given the resources that you have. And if nothing works, then there needs to be a thing that says that, all right, this role, you use the competency capability framework, the competency framework, right? And in any competency framework, there should be a bunch of values against which the performance needs to be, a bunch of metrics against which the performance needs to be measured, right? And if all of that has been deployed and the person is not, it is best to say that it's not working for you in this role. Do you agree? More often than not, the person would say, heck yes.
Yeah,
I am not, my
absolutely.
self-esteem is butchered. I am just not, I don't like being called up, and I don't like being given feedback. So
Right.
I think that I would be better, my skills would be better utilized in this way, in that role. Do you think that you can make that happen? So there are ways. And if there are no such ways, then it's best to part ways. But again, the process is important in a way that you are making it you're making it worthwhile for the person. You're not doing it in ways that hurts their self-esteem. It's so important. At the end of the day, we are adults. Would you like to be treated? Is my question, right? So parting ways. Again, there's a whole science behind how to part ways in ways that is not harmful. Right, as a leader, I had to let go of many people when the program transitioned. In fact, I was working, this was in West Africa, in Liberia, joined the program where there were 210 staff, and the program transitioned from a humanitarian to a development context, and had to let go more than half. And the process I applied, I'm genuinely very proud of the process, where people knew the why of that letting go, right? And we as an organization invested in building up their CV, invested in putting them in touch with other organizations, because you know, there is the livelihood of a person is concerned, a lot of issues related to life is concerned. So if it is not working, you let go, but the way you do it is vital.
No, and I think that addresses another question that we had received, that, how can PIP be implemented in a way that doesn't make employees feel insecure about their jobs? And also, how do we have PIP conversations? So I think I'm picking up something from what you just said, Navneeta. It is about having a prudent yet a very empathetic discussion with your employee, right? And I think that's a lot of fear of PIP comes from two things. One is the demeanor, right? You're already typecasted within the organization, right? And that's terrible. That acha PIP mila hai isko, right? Now that's almost like a demeaning place to be in. That's terrible. And second is that if it comes to a space where we agree that yes, we're not working out together, right? Are we being respectful about it? Are we being sensitive about it? And if we have the ability, are we being facilitative about it? Because end of the day, it is these are lives. These are livelihoods and lives on the rocks. So, are we doing these things? Maybe that would make the process a little smoother than what it seems like today. It is too mechanical. Uh, it is too number driven without any facilitative conversations. So that can make the process a little easier. Maybe the outcomes will not change in a hurry unless, at the grassroots or at the formative level, you have done things right so that you don't even have to reach the PIP way, right? Which is where we started talking about this. But even if that has not happened, and even if we are in a place where we are compulsively supposed to figure out that yes, these are people who are not working for the organization, is there a respectful way to go about it, right?
Absolutely.
Is there a nicer way, for the lack of a better word, is there a nicer way to handle this rather than the ways in which it mostly gets handled, which puts the fear of PIP within you? And that brings me to another perspective, and this is again open to everybody.
Can I quickly on this? Can I quickly mention that here in Australia, I live in Australia. For those for context, for those who have joined the call, and last year the federal government legislated that every employer in Australia is legally bound as of July last year to provide a psychologically safe workplace, to ensure that no employees are experiencing any kind of psychological hazard or that impacts their well-being. So now it's on the employers to show and tell. That element is so critical, right? Because the fact of the matter remains is toxic workplaces are on the rise. The broader factors in the environment, in the ecosystem within which we live, like globalization, cost of living, inflation, there's genocide being live cast on our bloody phones and devices. We're seeing the violence that's happening. Many of our employees are experiencing violence in their own homes as well. So like all of us come with so many stories within the workplace, and then to experience bad behaviors from colleagues, that's an absolute no. So related to this, great for entities like the CII and other peak bodies to come together to advocate for employers to provide psychological safety, so that a PIP stage, even if it reaches, it is not being weaponized. Sorry,
Yes,
Nilay, I
absolutely.
interrupted your thought, but I wanted to put this, that there's a legislation in Australia now, as in many other countries.
So yeah, so since this was Gupshup time, about 4 years ago, I was getting interviewed for the role of CHRO of an organization in Australia, but for whatever reasons, that did not work out. Now, the first brief I got from the organization in India, so that was just an extension. So I was supposed to be the country head over there. So the first brief that I got is, okay, so what works here doesn't work there, right? And people will come and tell you that I am psychologically not at peace, so I need leave from work. Please don't get surprised, because that is reality. I mean, not that I was absolutely incognizant of the reality, but the fact is that I know this piece about Australia because I think they are severely, kind of advocating this across organizations, which is wonderful. Is that a global, activity? No, it is not. And as I think Priya mentioned, right, about the American organization, where you are compulsively supposed to be putting a percentage of your employees under PIP. So is the case for a lot of Indian organizations. So yes, we have a long distance to go there. But let's bring a different perspective right now to this conversation, right? Because we have moved far ahead in steps in terms of digitization and technology, and the new trend around, which is AI, right? Now, I have been reading a lot about how AI has been introduced into performance management by various entities, and it's working wonders. So I'm just wondering, I don't know, it's a question to everybody, whosoever has done a little bit of research around how AI is really boosting performance management. Do we think we are at a place where we can actually use robotics to bring in unbiasedness? Well, yes, you can. It's like an oxymoron to say that you can't, but you can definitely introduce robotics to bring a little bit of unbiasedness. My question, however, is, do you think that's going to help? You can do it for sure, right? You can feed in your data into the system. The AI will tell you that whether you're a performer or you're not a performer. The AI is also going to guide you through having those discussions. Do you think that's a logical solution that we have come to today, or do you think we are outperforming by kind of depending on AI rather than on human intellect?
I would love to hear what others think. I have a
Yeah,
few
it's a
thoughts
question to
myself.
everyone. It's a question to everyone. So here is what AI will do for you, right? So AI will take in all your data, put them in the system. I mean, AI will not take in the data. The HR folks are going to be inputting all of the data into the system, and there is going to be this AI boss sitting around, and who's going to be actually crunching those numbers and giving you a very realistic view of what was doable, what was not doable. Now, mind you, it will not just tell you what you have done versus what you have not done. It will also tell you, considering that you're giving the inputs, the right ones, that whether it was possible or not possible. That's where unbiasedness, kind of creeps in. So that's one dimension. The second dimension is that it will also assist you with the communication in case you feel that you're not ready to handle that piece of communication or that piece of data. So given this perspective, do you think the time has come when we let robotics, kind of overpower our own instincts, our own intuitions, or you think to be unbiased, maybe that should help us. Anybody can pick it up.
I'll jump in as people are thinking. To me, you can't take the humans out of the equation. And how dare you think about it? Why should you? And it's humans. We are the ones who are putting in the algorithms for the AI to kind of function. So
Absolutely.
if we choose to inject our bias, that's what the AI would pick up. So it comes down to us. It comes down to our intention, the purpose. Should AI take over, most of the work in the workplace? Absolutely not. Again, how can workplaces remain humane by keeping the humans at the center? Should AI be deployed for the everyday, mundane, thankless jobs? Absolutely, yes. Do that, so that it makes it easy for the humans to work, to do it more efficiently, to have some time to relax and have this gupshup over coffee or chai or samosa instead of being in front of the screen kind of all day. How do we use technology in a sassy, smarter way to make our lives and work easier? But more importantly, how do we use technology to tell us, remind us to be unbiased? Those nudges, again, churning the data and putting it out, again, reminding you to not have the appraisal every 6 months or 8 months, but to have it set up a meeting on a mutually agreed time next week. So those
That's
are
right.
the ways that can make the AI technology should be used to make our work as leaders more humane and human centric.
Absolutely. Yeah, love that answer. That, yes, I mean, make them the aid, don't make them the masters, as we keep hearing across the alleys. But though I liked, and this is what I liked about the concept of AI creeping into performance management, that something which is intuitive for a human being can be counterproductive as well, right? And which is bias, right? Now, if you can find something which is a little more scientific, and it tells you that, hello, I think this is what the real picture is, and not what you're thinking. And if I can be honest enough to get inspired by it and have my discussions around those lines, I don't think there's a harm in doing that. Because as humans, we are gullible, we are vulnerable, and which is why it is important for something as unbiased and robotic to tell us that, hello, don't go that way. This is the real picture, so let's stick to this. I think I wouldn't really mind that. And that would help a lot of these young managers, Navneeta, who are sprawling all over the place today and who have no clue as to how to have these conversations. So I would really not mind as an HR head to give them some kind of a support to which are called conversation aids, right? And I love the concept that if I'm this young manager, 20 something, I heck don't know how to attend to this issue in front of me. I know there's a problem, but I don't know how to attend to it. I wouldn't mind a conversation aid so that at least I know at the base, the conversations are going right. Yes, of course, there would still be that humane touch to it, and that is important. And that's where I apply common sense. But then I would want somebody to tell me, which is not necessarily my manager, because he is also being driven by bias and intuition, which can be counterproductive, but by something which is not driven by anything else but data, to tell me that, okay, he's not all that gone as a case, right? You still have hope. So have your conversation in that direction. I think that can help a lot of youngsters who are suddenly in managerial positions out of an MBA college, and you have, you're sitting at a 40 lakh package, and you are actually handling people far senior to you, far more experienced to you, but maybe doesn't come with the same competence that you do. How do I have those conversations? I think that can aid it. That's my
Two,
thought.
two points on this. One is, again, yes, to what you just said. However, nothing takes away the power from that human conversation. In the fact of the matter is that we are in intergenerational workplaces. There is no denying that, right? There are baby boomers and millennials and Gen Z and whatever other that kind of
all
comes.
of them
There is no
together in the room.
denying. But we, apart from that generational diversity, increasingly workplaces are opening up doors for people with diverse disabilities. Like I have been recently diagnosed with ADHD, which I knew there was, like, seeing the patterns of my behavior. And so the neurodivergent employee, an autistic employee, an employee with ADHD, they may or may not benefit from different technology if the technology is designed in such a way that so being very mindful in how technology is designed, be deployed, actually enables a workplace to be inclusive or not, accessible or not, equitable or not.
Totally agree.
That's the
agree
number one. The number two was that, there's so much of wisdom that people of our generation, like, in our late 40s, early 50s have, which we can share with the folks who are entering the workplace. And so why can't organizations invest in those sponsorships, in those mentoring, in those coaching by the older leaders, managers, employees, but so that human element is so vital while using technology to aid that.
Yes. No, I completely endorse and agree. And with that, I think we have we're hitting the timeline. So I would like to open it up for questions, thoughts, debates, whatever comes to your mind. Disagreements, questions. We'll give it a minute to wait for anybody who might have any questions, thoughts, or disagreements or agreements, and then we can call it a day.
I was reading this, and there's I wanted to share a few resources, and I'm doing that now. The Texito recently did this research on language bias and how language bias is splattered in performance management. I can share a few more with Shagun, and perhaps Shagun can share it with folks attended. And there's another from Gallup, very recent, 2023. Really relevant research to the conversation that we are having on the relevance of performance management, and how a reimagining of this is so vital. Reimagining it, not putting band-aids, not tweaking, not making a change here and there, but really dismantling it.
Absolutely.
A new way to do things.
No, we would love to have that, Navneeta. And as usual, with your inputs, with your thoughts, with your gupshup, it is always so enriching. And I hope we can have many more of those. And thank you to the audience for being a part of this journey. Please feel free to put in your questions, take up the materials that we will be putting up, and have a great time. And thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much. It was really enriching, and we need that injection in between our corporate lives to talk about some issues or some things for our, to ponder about.
I know, Priyam, it's for all of us, while me and Navneeta are talking and you are giving those very exciting inputs within, I think even as I speak, I realize that there are things which I need to do differently. I'm sure it's the same for Navneeta, you, Alka, everybody. So yeah, I mean, it's a journey we all travel together, and I hope we can just keep making it better and beautiful for the people we are traversing it with. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for hosting us and having us.
Thank you so much.